Hello everyone, this is Dr. Ilyas from the Department of Education, Hazara University, Mount Sahara. This presentation is actually in response to some of my students who wanted me to have a presentation on literature review. So I have actually divided that into two parts. In the first part, I would like to discuss the what and why of literature review, while in the second one, I would discuss the how of literature review. So let's begin with the first one, the what and why of literature review. It's my personal observation, and it's like maybe in kind of general practice as well, that literature review is often one of the most ignored and less emphasized, less cared for part of many student theses in our higher education institutions. Especially in thesis, it happens that they turn the literature review part of it into kind of copy paste kind of exercise. And in many cases, what happens is to remove plagiarism that they think is the way to remove is to actually distort it and to just use synonyms and replace words in order to, in a way, deceive the software from catching the matching words and things. So let's begin with a kind of a definition of this concept of the literature review. What does it actually mean? Well, a literature review can be defined as comprehensive, systematic, critical appraisal of knowledge and information relevant to a proposed topic of research for thesis or any other research projects. So these four words are quite important. First of all, literature review is a kind of comprehensive reading around and understanding around the topic. And secondly, it is systematic. It is not like haphazard. It's not something like you copy and paste pages from one place and another place, and so there is basically no connection between the various topics and subtopics and sections and subsections of the literature review that is often visible in many student theses. So, on the contrary, it's quite systematic. Secondly, it is critical. And what is critical literature? Critical actually means that the researcher or the student's voice is there. It's not that he says this or she says this and so that's it. No, it's not something like that. The researcher or the student who wants to write a literature review must have their own voice. They must look at things critically. They must not accept things as on their face value. And so it's a kind of overall appraisal of and very comprehensive, systematic, and critical process. Then comes the next question, and that question is, why is it that literature reviews are needed in research papers and research theses? Why is it that we need to do literature reviews as part of our research projects, research theses, and research papers? Well, the first thing is that research does not take place in a vacuum. So it actually all topics or I should say most topics have a kind of previous background knowledge that we need to explore before we go into further exploring that. So what has been done previously is something that we as researchers need to know about. So that's why research does not take place in a vacuum. The second thing is that, and which is actually related to the first point. The second point is that our literature reviews actually provide basis for a proposed research topic. And so why are you doing it? Because previous studies have done this, this, and this, and so I'm doing this. The next thing is that it helps you in generating research ideas. So you might have certain ideas in the beginning of your literature review, but once you begin the literature review, what happens is you come across other concepts related to this, and so it helps in the generation of new ideas. The next thing is that it helps in refining research ideas and topics. So you might have certain ideas, certain topics in your mind, but when you do literature review, what happens that it actually helps in the refinement of those ideas. And helping also comes in the form of refining research objectives. You might have certain objectives, and you might think those objectives were quite important, but then you do literature review and you come to know that those objectives need to be refined and to be reshaped. So that is something where research review helps you. The next thing is that it helps in refining research methodology. In some cases, you might have started working on a research topic and you might have some research design in your mind. But then you read around that particular topic and you come across that the methodology that you are using has been used previously on a similar kind of topic. So let's say a topic has been that you are contemplating to do research on has been explored through some quantitative means, but you think that there could be some in-depth study of it through using some qualitative methods, or maybe a mixture of methods. And so literature review actually helps you in that as well. Then the next thing is that it enlightens on how the topic or aspects of the topic have been explored previously. So this is linked to the methodology part of it. As I told you, that let's say you want to explore, for example, if you want to explore the concept of reflective practice in the teacher education programs, or in nursing programs, or in maybe law, or something else, in some other aspects of it, and you come across that this has been explored using a single method research design. So what you can do is think about using mixed method research design, or maybe a combination of different sources of information. And then most importantly, a literature review actually is what? It develops our habit of critical objective reading, which helps the researchers, especially beginning researchers, to become lifelong learners. What happens? What is literature review? Literature review is basically reading. And reading is one of the most important qualities that researchers, and especially researchers in the beginning of their careers, such as student researchers, PhD students, MPhil students, they need to develop the habit of reading. And this is something that literature review helps in. Secondly, it's not like something like reading for a pleasure or something. It is a very disciplined kind of reading, critical kind of reading. And so what happens that during the research literature review process, this habit might be developed, and which might be very helpful in the long run, is in helping students become lifelong learners. I think you might have certain questions in your mind related to this topic as well. So if you have further questions, I'll be happy to respond to those questions and to your comments. So if you have any questions on comments, please don't shy away from sharing in the comment section. Thank you. Take care. Bye.